Well, good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, or whenever you may be tuning in to the Growing Our Future podcast. I tell you what, we enjoy bringing special guests on the show, people that are willing to share their insights, their expertise, their experiences. And the reason that's important, by the way, for our guests, the reason that's important, Abraham Lincoln once said, the philosophy of the schoolroom in one generation will be the philosophy of government in the next. So what we plant today is the future we're going to grow tomorrow. So this program is about growing the future. So we're bringing on guests that are going to pour into us. They're going to give us seeds of greatness that are going to make us better personally and professionally. And today is no different. I am so excited for y'all to get to meet, if you hadn't already met him, Tucker Brown. Tucker, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, it's an honor to be a part of this. I'm really looking forward to the visit.
Well, we're going to cover some ground here, but I'm going to handle it well. So as we start off, Tucker, every guest that we bring on here, everybody gets the same first question.
Let's hear it.
What are you grateful for today?
Well, today I'm grateful for a chance of rain tomorrow and warm weather to come after that, because that means my grass is coming. I've got grass coming and my wheat's coming on. So today, right now, I can hear the rain hitting my window in the back. That's what I'm thankful for.
I tell you, well, for those of us who live up in North Texas, we have experienced drought in very unique ways. Several years ago, I had the state FFA president and vice president up here, and I took them to a bridge, and we walked about a mile. And they said, Mr. Alejandro, where are we at? I said, you're walking on the bottom of a lake. And I said, a lot of people hear about droughts, but very few ever get to see it. This is what drought looks like. And when you understand that, you understand how precious that rain really is.
Right.
And so I agree with you. It is something to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
Well, very good. So let's start off here and tell us a little bit, number one, about you. How did you get to where you're at right now at the R.A. Brown Ranch? And why do you do what you do? Just kind of take us on a journey and bring everybody that's never met Tucker Brown. And by the way, this guy's kind of like a social media, what they call an influencer. So you can follow him on various platforms. I love his little snippets, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But Tucker, kind of bring everybody up a little bit about you and how you got to where you're at.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'll tell you that I grew up on the R.A. Brown Ranch, and that didn't start with me or my parents. I'm the sixth generation there, and I've got a lot to be thankful for. You talked about being grateful. I have a lot to be thankful for, and I learn more every day about the wisdom of the people that came before me to help me get to where I am today. So as the sixth generation of the R.A. Brown Ranch, I grew up here in Throckmorton, Texas, raising, as we like to say, cows, kids, and quarter horses. We raised registered bulls, black, red, and Sim-Angus bulls. Those are that's kind of our main deal of what we do. But we love being a part of the community here in Throckmorton. We love to be a part of the ag industry. As you know, Mr. Alejandro, my parents are very involved in FFA, as I was too. Both my parents being national FFA presidents, and being involved with cattle genetics. Everybody I ever talked to said, "Hey, well, you're the golden child to be the next president." That quite wasn't the plan that I had or that God kind of put on my heart, but I was very involved in FFA growing up in high school, and took a lot of those leadership skills forward into school, and went to Lubbock Christian University. I actually played a little bit of college basketball. I'm a big competitor. I really like to compete, whether it's chess, whether it's the playing pig basketball, shooting outside, or playing college basketball, from all of it. So went to, whenever I left home, my plan was to only be back for Thanksgiving and Christmas, possibly. I didn't exactly plan on coming back, but the more I went to Lubbock Christian University, which isn't exactly an ag school.
Right.
And I got to meet a whole different group of people that were raised very differently than myself, had different, we all had the same morals and Christianity and loving each other, But as far as a connection to the land and agriculture, we were very different there. The longer I was there, the more I realized I want to go back to that. So graduated from Lubbock Christian. I went to TCU Ranch Management, knowing I needed to learn a lot to prepare to go home. And that was fantastic. And now I've been home since 2017 and love where I'm at. And thankfully, I tricked my beautiful wife, Carly Brown, into marrying me before I moved back to Throckmorton. And she likes to remind me of, where did you bring me?
It's got its charm.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I just had to talk her into seeing it. That's all.
Great. So when I was perusing the R.A. Brown website, I noticed that your official title that's on the website is Manager of Wild Animals and Happy Cows.
Yeah.
Tell us what does it look like a day in the life of Tucker Brown?
Oh man, a little bit of everywhere. I've been involved. I mean, just being here a short time, 5 years, I guess, 6 years. That I've been. I want to learn each part of the ranch, from the feed side to genetics to cow calf to reproduction. I mean, I want to learn it all. So I started out, as I came back, just helping everywhere. I mean, I was just basically a full-time intern, kind of what I am today, as a full-time intern and helping everywhere. But my main responsibility and taking care of today is the fish and wildlife side of things, and whether that's leasing country out or selling hunts. And then I am in charge of the cow herd and the pasture rotations, preparing cows for breeding, embryo transfer, AI, getting the bull out, vaccinations. That's kind of my main deal. But I do, just like every ranch, help everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you said this. This is interesting. When you go back and you look at all the episodes that we've recorded for the Growing Our Future podcast, you're the third college basketball player that I've interviewed. So I interviewed one of my board members, Cleo Franklin, who he's in the Hall of Fame up in Iowa.
Wow.
Interviewed a guy by the name of Dan Owalabi. You might have passed or heard that name out there in Ohio near Bruce and Margie Cobb. And he was an accomplished college ball player. And now you're the third that I've interviewed. And anyway, that you said something else, though, that kind of got my attention. Cleo and I were doing a program one time at the International Association of Fairs and Expos, and I talked about the importance of becoming an SME, a subject matter expert. And I think people should do that. I think it's important to find something you're passionate about, sink your teeth into it, and strive to become an SME. Well, Cleo challenged me on that a little bit. And he said, Aaron, he goes, let me tell you the problem with an SME. He goes, the SMEs, they think they know everything. And so they're not always willing to learn. He said, what you really should try to be is an intern in the SME.
Yeah.
And so when you gave your example a while ago of learning the ranch, I sat there and I thought, that's exactly what we want. We want somebody who has the capacity to be the subject matter expert, but also has the humbleness to realize I don't know everything. I want to ask questions. I want to learn things. And it seems like you've kind of taken on that role. Right.
Well, there's one thing that I really don't like, and that's losing. And part of losing is being wrong, that I lose in the conversation of being incorrect with what I'm stating. And so many times before, one thing I learned through my dad or my parents and FFA was just learning the facts and speaking, being educated on what you're speaking in. And so that means that I get corrected quite a bit, which I need, because I want to be right. I want to be corrected. And I think there's many out there that don't want to be. But if we want to be right, if we want to be correct, if we want to move forward, we have to be corrected. So I really like it. I'm like, hey, tell me, where was I wrong? Where do I need to get better? And So, which is kind of hard to tell people sometimes, but whenever I beg for it almost, it's easier for my peers to tell me, well, this is where you lack. So that gives me the kind of place to look forward, move forward to. And when I can surround myself with people who are those SMEs, those experts in that field that I can pull off of that, I love that situation. So going to whether it's Texas FFA or National FFA or Texas Southwest Cattle Raisers, and being around people that are leaders and up in their company who have worked hard, that I get to pull off of that energy and wisdom, I get excited. You can hear me. I get excited doing that.
I love it. I have a philosophy. Everybody that knows me knows here's my philosophy. You and I, we've never even met before. And I'm sitting here listening and going, this guy thinks just like I do. Number one, if you want to be the best, train with the best.
Yeah.
If you want to be the best at something, go find the best and hang out with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing that you said, which I think is a mark of a great leader, by the way, is it's okay to be a little bit vulnerable.
Right.
Because being a little bit vulnerable and a little bit humble allows you to open up that door to absorb just a little bit more that you might not have known.
Sure. No, great point.
And whether that's in agriculture or in life, in government, think about all the things that we could learn about.
Mm-hmm.
But just having that humbleness of being a little bit vulnerable to say, that was a good point.
And I think that being that way tends to put me in a way between two fires of people who are very, very passionate about two different opinions, and I draw from both of those. And so it tends to put me between two different fires, but because I want to understand the logic of both sides and which way should I go, and I want to know both sides because I want to go the best way, I tend to find myself sometimes between two fires on different occasions, whether it's politics or cattle or vaccinations and a little bit of everywhere. But I that's where I want to be. That's where I live to be.
That's where I thrive too, by the way. So every summer I take 36 teachers on a bus for a week-long leadership experience. And we'll visit about 15 locations. We'll travel over 1,000 miles. They'll hear from over 60 presenters.
Wow.
But when they get on the bus and we give them their notebook, they open a notebook. The first thing that they see in their notebook when they open it up is the word question. And I always ask people, what's the root word of the word question? Quest. To go on an adventure. I said, your responsibility this week is to go on an adventure. And just like you, when you look at life as this, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to try to learn. And guess what? Sometimes you got to ask tough questions, because tough questions is what prompts them to give you the insight that we're really hungry for.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with the tough questions. Matter of fact, everybody that knows me knows I like tough questions because it forces me to think. It forces me to compile what the right answer for that moment is, to draw on the experiences and the resources and the information that you've been able to gather in your lifetime. And if you keep doing that, just think about that capacity. Your capacity of knowledge is only going to continue to do one thing, and that's grow.
I hope so.
Well, it has to. I mean, there's no other way for it to go.
Mm-hmm.
So you went TCU, you did the ranch management, you come back, now you're definitely right in the heart of it. I saw you at the NCBA activities, and I've been watching kind of some of the things that you've been doing, both personally, professionally, and trying to really help people understand more about agriculture and how we get our food. I think that's something else, Tucker, that a lot of people don't. We sometimes talk amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And, let me give you one for ag teachers. You ready? I'm going to give you one for ag teachers. So back in about 2017, they did a survey on the words of agriculture. And we discovered that about 79% of Americans don't even know what agriculture is. They don't really have a reference point when you say agriculture.
Yeah.
Okay. When education is in the news, is it usually good or is it bad?
Tends to be bad.
Tends to be bad, right? Oh, we're agricultural education. We're what you don't understand and what you don't like. How come you don't understand us? How come you don't listen to us?
Yeah.
And so I think programs like this, and for people to see the example of what you're trying to do, and the fact that I'm out here doing a podcast that I'm writing for Forbes Nonprofit Council, we're trying to bridge to an audience to talk about where food comes from. They may not understand agriculture, but everybody understands food. So
Yes.
let's help them understand where this animal protein comes from. It didn't just fall into the supermarket.
Right.
Cows don't know it's Christmas time. I mean, somebody had to get out there and feed them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think sometimes in the world of food production in agriculture, we sometimes talk too much amongst ourselves, and we miss the opportunity to help reach an audience that doesn't really understand where their food comes from, the care that went into it.
No, I agree. I think I've been kind of living in that statement for the past 2 years, probably, is when I kind of took on this ag advocate persona and trying to push that out. My mother is a very talented photographer, and I've been trained to see her eye and what is a good picture and what people want to see and where their eyes move to on a photo first and things like that. And so I've just kind of meshed that with my, we're surrounded by nature and cattle and horses and things that people want to see every day that don't get the chance to, and I get to share it. I kind of call it the Yellowstone effect, of where people have watched Yellowstone and now they're more interested in whether it's the cowboy lifestyle or beef or their food now more than ever. COVID helped out with a lot of that too. But since Yellowstone, I've been asked, it's given me an opportunity to bridge that gap, because people are now questioning it. As you say, I think you made a good point to where the word education kind of is a negative. Like you hear that, let me educate you, and you're like, oh, no. Like I already know. And that's what our consumer thinks, right? So if I don't tell them, hey, I'm here to educate you. If I just say, hey, I'm a dad, I'm a father, I'm a hardworking man, that's what they connect to. That's what they want to. I want to be a face that they can trust, a voice that they want to listen to. And there's some new data that came out that says that the rancher is it goes back and forth from number 1 to number 2 of the most trusted source when it comes to learning about food. People wanting to hear from a rancher about learning about their food, or a farmer. So, I mean, I'm like, that's me. I can do this. I've got the capability. And FFA helped me with whether it was learning to speak or be able to put that speech together and be able to broadcast that out. And social media gave me this platform to use to reach millions of people in a matter of one video, however long that is, a week. And so I get really excited about it, just because I know how much opportunity there is out there. And as in ag, like you said, we do a lot of conversation around ourselves. I mean, we love talking to other people in ag. I do. I love going to state FFA convention or NCBA or TSCRA and getting to speak with other cattlemen and other people in ag. And we've it's not that we don't know how to tell our story, because we've been saying that for probably 10 years now. Tell your story, tell your story. And it's not that we don't know how, but I think we need to learn how to tell it to where our consumer understands.
That's right.
And that's where I've probably learned the most in the past couple of years of, well, what do they think they know? What do they think they know that is incorrect? And then how can I change that idea besides telling them, hey, you're wrong, let me educate you? Because the moment somebody tells me that, I wall up. Right. No, not listening to you. Right. But if it's somebody that I know has worked really hard, built up from the ground and continues to work and is driven and competitive, no matter where they are, I draw from that and want to hear, and I trust that. So that's where I want to be, is that trusted face to help do that. And I do it I found the most success in doing that through entertainment. I mean, my videos or pictures or videos on social media tend to have some type of humor in it. And I think everybody, I love to smile. I love to have a good time. And I want people to do that around me because it makes me happy. So I call it edutainment. If I can entertain them enough to keep them to watch that video, and that video has educational stuff in it, and they go, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Right.
Then they go to my page and they watch another one and another one.
Right.
And that's where I found the most success and the better ability to be a trusting face.
Everything you said is correct, by the way. The polls show that people trust farmers and ranchers.
Yes.
Okay, so that tells you right now. And by the way, I think that I've always been told, we're not going to get into a deep philosophical, spiritual discussion, but I've always been told there's two things you can't argue about. They said you can't argue. You can't argue the Bible or somebody's testimony. And so when you're sharing your story, when you're sharing your testimony, it's one thing to share it, but like you said, you got this new vehicle called social media. And the reason I think that's important, I like to tell people all the time, I want you to go outside and get some of that green time. Go out there and get that green time, but then I want you to share it on screen time because it's what you said. I think when people see you riding and working cattle and with your dogs and your family, and they see you out in this natural environment, I do think there's something that's in all of our DNA about the earth, because I think it's part of who we are. And now you've got this platform that allows you to bring it to an audience of not just those who ride horses that say, let me see how he's riding, but you've also got it for the people, like you said, that are new to it, that are saying, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. So I like the fact that you bring that green time to screen time, and you're also reaching a new audience. Red Stegall's a friend of mine, and Red and I talk about that. And that's what I tell Red all the time, is I appreciate so much that his program and what he's done, he's attracted so many people from major urban areas that he's the cowboy guy. But that's okay, because that cowboy guy is sharing some real critical information about how food gets to our dinner tables.
Right.
And I think you're kind of doing that again, and you're attracting that next audience. And I'm going to tell you, that's important for people like me. I tell people all the time that, if agriculture's taught me anything, it's taught me, if you want to know what the future is, grow it. If we want to know what our country's going to look like, you better start getting involved with young people. You better start planting the seeds of what we want them to be. And having advocates like you willing to share your story, your testimony. The other thing that you've said that I really like, have you had a chance to meet Gordon Davis yet?
Oh, I don't think so.
G.W. Davis. They just named the Ag College at Texas Tech after him.
Okay, I have not. No. That's what I was thinking of, but no, I have no.
Yeah. So G.W. Davis, I had the pleasure of working with him when he started CEV Multimedia. But Gordon Davis, when he gave his speech the day that he made the gift, and this was my big takeaway, I love it. He said, it's okay to win. It's okay to win.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you the question I ask kids, because you're fixing to jump all over this one. How many high schools do you think there are in the state of Texas?
I may be way off. I'm just going to throw a number and say 4,000.
Well, that's not bad. There's over 3,000 high schools in the state of Texas. Okay. Think about that. So 3,000 plus high schools. How many of them are going to have a graduating class this year? Every one of them.
Hopefully all of them.
Right?
Yeah.
So think about that. All these kids are going to be out looking for a job, scholarship, or an opportunity. My question to everybody is, what's your competitive edge? What separates you from somebody else? And it sounds like maybe for you, you found a competitive edge in some athletics. You might have picked up some skills through the FFA that gave you a little bit of a competitive edge above your peers.
Mm-hmm.
But I want you to take off on this idea of competition. How important is it to understand that it's a competitive world? How important is it to understand? And by the way, competitive doesn't mean you have to be unsportsmanlike. It doesn't have to be that you're mean or that you're I mean, being a competitor to me is like being a warrior. To me, it's very noble.
Yeah.
But I'm curious what your take on this. Why, if you were talking to young people right now, talking about that necessity of a competitive edge, what would you tell them?
I love competitiveness just because it's what drives me. And if I'm not competing against something in my mind, I don't have a reason to be better than I was last year at this time or yesterday or however you want to compete against yourself or somebody else. I do better when I compete against somebody else. And whether it's showing up to the ranch on time, whether it's having a bull that is better, whether it's I can compete in a whole lot of things. And I'm always facing the clock. I'll compete against the GPS when it tells me what time I'm going to arrive at a place. So that always makes me, I think it makes me better because it holds me accountable, basically. And not that, we talked about if we don't do our job, something dies in the ag industry. And that may not be the case in everything that I do, but there's a whole lot of truth in that anytime it involves cattle and horses, which is my job a lot of the time. So, gosh, I love to compete, and I didn't realize how much I did until I was done playing basketball, and I didn't play for a little bit. And then I went back and played just a little bit of pickup ball and was like, oh, I forgot how fun it was to get right up against somebody else and just see who's better. And I try to bring that to whatever I'm doing because I know it does make me better. And it's always in the back of my head that if I'm not training or if I'm not studying, that person I'm competing against is. And I'm not going to win. And I already told you I don't like to lose. So that's where that's in me. So that competitive edge is, I think, for high school graduates who are just getting out, you don't have to be very competitive to be recognized, I don't think, today in a lot of jobs, because I think the bar has been lowered as time has gone on what competitive means. And so by just a little bit, and I think that'll just make you hungrier to be just a little bit more competitive. And then every time that you jump up to that next level of people who have studied more, or you get that raise and get to another job, I'm always trying to find that best, who's next, who am I competing against next? Because I'm done competing with the guys who got me to where I am. Who's going to beat me? Who's going to be better than me to train me to where I need to go? So, gosh, I think that makes the world go around, is competitiveness.
Well, like I said, we've never met before, but I couldn't agree with you more. Everybody that knows me knows that's what I'm telling people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I tell people as adults, our job as adults are to give kids opportunities. The kid's job is to determine the outcome. Our job is to try to help them get to the opportunity and give them the skill set to go out there and compete. But we can't do it for them. And it's just like this podcast. I wish everybody would tune in to the Growing Our Future podcast. The spectrum of guests we've had on here, there is so much wisdom. I know not everybody's going to do that, but there's probably going to be some young person today watching this that's going to say, I kind of like what Tucker said about I got to be a little more competitive. I got to have an edge when I get out there. And or maybe it's even a parent or a boss that's listening to this at a company and says, I really need to spur my along a little more accountability, a little more expectation. Here's the thing. People that know me, and you'll appreciate this, they say, Aaron, what do you want? What is it that you want for the Texas FFA? I said, that's easy. I want to be the best.
Yeah.
Because if we're not striving to be the best, maybe we should just hang a sign up that says no worse than the competition. If you're not striving to be the best, where's your passion? Where's your persistence, your drive?
Yeah.
If you're always working to be the best, you're always honing your competitive edge. You're always listening to what other people have to say. You're always looking for a way to make yourself better. And success begets success. Like you said, if you can get a little bit of success, you realize, wow, if I could just improve myself a little bit more, maybe I could have a little more success.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like that's kind of what you're doing there at the ranch. You're taking on these roles and responsibilities to build your competitive edge in a future marketplace.
That's my hope, and I'm loving to win. The hard part for me is, once you do get that first win on no matter what it is, you get that first win, then losing hurts a little more. And then once you lose, that win feels that's where that feeling of winning feels so good, because you've lost before. And we can get complacent in the spot where we are. And just continue to win and just stay where we are, not get any better, and just stay where we are and continue to win. But that doesn't mean we get better. And so I think being a leader means knowing when you need to lose, maybe getting over your head a little bit, forcing yourself to kind of pull the best out of you. And we talk about being the best and winning, but to be the best, gosh, I've lost at a lot of things. And I think that's taken me to where I am. Whether it was with social media, there was a time where I was just frustrated, and why aren't people wanting to see these videos? And I feel like they're really good. And then I was able to find a guy that was really good at it and talk to him. And he said, look, here's why. Here's your reason. You're not doing this. Implement that, and it's changed the game. And so as long as I keep moving up, losing a little bit, and then feeling that win again to drive me, that's where I do best, is winning, losing pretty hard, just enough to make me remember why I don't want to lose, and then getting right back on my feet and going. So I know a lot of people that are happy winning every day in the place that they're at, and that's okay, because they're really good people and they're good at their job. That's just not what I do.
Well, I'm always on these interviews, I'm always listening for the title. So I'm always listening to the person talking, thinking, okay, say something that's going to be the title for this interview. And you just hit the nail on the head. The title of this interview is going to be Get In Over Your Head.
Get in over your head. I like it.
Because
so true.
About get in over your head.
Mm-hmm.
That's good stuff. All right, let's give the listeners some tips real quick. If you could listen, if you were that ag kid sitting in that ag classroom back, what would be 3 leadership tips? What would you tell them they need to do to be successful leaders?
I'll tell you, 2 things come to my head immediately. And I think leaders are well-spoken. I think they're easy to listen to. And when many of us think of the leaders, when we think of leaders, we think of somebody who is driving the ship and kind of telling everybody else what to do in a way that everybody understands. And so being well-spoken and being able to speak and communicate can get you a long ways. There is a little bit of truth to people, getting you to where you are, but you have to have that ability in you to back it up for it to be long-term. But there's a whole lot of eyes you can catch of people who will help you just by being able to be well-spoken. And that's, you don't have to do all the speech classes or anything like that, but training a little bit on that, I think, goes a long ways.
I agree with you.
I think the second, kind of along the same path, and it may be the same thing, but a little bit different, that networking is so powerful and underused that I remember going to Texas FFA and only wanting to stay with my people that I was going to go back home and be in the same chapter with. When wish that I would have met people outside of my chapter, whether it was the state president or the national president. I mean, we have these people here who will visit with us, who will talk to us. And I wish that I would have taken that opportunity at all the FFA events, at the competitions, at the conventions, to meet people outside of that, because I think there's a lot of growth in friendships that you make from people who are like you, but have different experiences and can help you. So I think networking is an unbelievable tool that is very underused today, because it's right there in front of us. And we just have to, but there's many of us that are so scared just to go talk to somebody. And I used to be there. I'm not there anymore, but just going and saying hello, hey, I'm Tucker from Throckmorton, and then that's when you start asking those questions. And with FFA, it's easy. It's like, what competitions do you do? Are you in chapter conducting? Have you done any welding? Which is, I think it's easy in FFA because it's people who are very similar to us. I just wish I would have taken those opportunities in networking, which I do now. I feel like I use networking a lot. Hmm. And the third one, I don't know if I've ever heard somebody say it as a leadership skill, but I think consistency is another powerful tool. And I think setting goals helps us be consistent. So if we can set some short-term goals, set a long-term one, and then set some short-term goals in there to help us know if we're on track or not, that helps us keep consistent. Whether it's me saying I'm going to post a certain amount of posts for 6 months, I have to post this many posts. And well, to do that, I'll need to do this many per month. That means this many per week. And that helps me know whether I'm on track or not. Mm-hmm. And then you take it to the business world. I'm going to study where I'm going. I'm going to study that this many times a week, this many minutes a day. I think that really helps with consistency. And maybe it's setting goals. Maybe that's but it's in that same category. But just that being consistent goes a very long way, because nothing happens in that short term. And that's where it's so frustrating. And that's why so many people quit, whether it's losing weight or social media or work. I mean, everything. So many people quit very short because they weren't consistent at it. So that would be my three. Being well-spoken, networking, and being consistent.
Tucker, how did you not ever become a foundation ambassador and work for me at convention? I don't understand that. The foundation ambassador program, are you ready for this? You're going to love it.
I'm ready. Throw it at me.
So we give an award to one of the ambassadors every year, because here's what we teach them. We teach them to go out and meet anybody within 3 feet of them. And it's called the 3-foot award. Because we want them to go out and realize that everybody they're about to meet is going to be their future colleague, constituent, customer. Yeah. Get to know as many people as you can. And then the other one is, we always say consistency creates credibility. And I like what you said about you try to win, but sometimes you fall back, and that drives you to want to win again. That's the way consistency works. Consistency doesn't mean that we're going to win all the time. It means that I may get a dip here, but guess what? I'm still moving forward. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be found climbing. I'm not done. You know what? In agriculture, what do we say? When you're green, you grow. When you're ripe, you rot. I don't want to rot.
Right.
I've had people say, well, Aaron, when are you going to retire? I said, why? There's more work to do.
Got more growing.
There's more doors that need to be built so that more people can walk through those doors. Mm-hmm. And people like you inspire me that there's these future voices that are passionate about agriculture and food and family and faith and liberty and freedom and all the things that make our country great. Yes. That why would we not want to plant those seeds in people's lives?
Right.
Right. I applaud you for what you're doing. All right, we better wrap up. We could go on for I could talk to you.
I could go. I could keep going.
Okay, everybody gets a fun question at the end. Here's your fun question, Tucker Brown. What's the best concert you've ever been to?
Oh man, best concert I've ever been to was it was actually not from my favorite artist, and it was not a full band. I'm a Texas country music fan, and I went to school in Lubbock. There's a lot of music there. It was a William Clark Green acoustic show on a Tuesday night.
Wow.
Pretty small crowd. There was probably 200 people, and I loved it. I don't know. I feel like he was more personal. He was a little more joking around, which made it a whole lot more fun for the crowd. And that's my favorite concert, was the acoustic show from William Clark Green on a Tuesday night in Lubbock.
How cool is that? That's good stuff.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. Well, Tucker, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate the voice. And by the way, do you recognize the name Zig Ziglar?
Oh, yes.
A great motivational speaker.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Zig Ziglar's son, Tom Ziglar, is on my board of directors. And Tom and I have a lot of conversations about his dad because his dad was one of my mentors. But the thing that I like about Tom Ziglar is Tom's not trying to be Zig Ziglar. Tom's being the best version of Tom Ziglar that he could ever be. And they say that we create a legacy. Everybody creates a legacy. You either create it by design or default. And what you're doing is you're establishing your brand. It's a great family brand. But Tucker's taking it out there and he's saying, let me show you how I'm going to establish my legacy.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing, because you're taking the best and standing on the shoulders of all those people that went before you. But you're also reaching down, saying to the people below, here, look, come here, let me give you a hand up because I want you up here with me.
Right.
You know?
That's my hope. That's what I hope for.
And so I just want to commend you for that. I hope that you keep doing that. And we wish you all the luck in the world.
I sure appreciate it. I think you're very wise, and Mr. Ziegler is very wise also. But, whenever we get to find being recognized for what we did rather than maybe than what this brand did, there's something special about that makes me drive forward and then makes me love the brand even more.
That's right.
So I thank you for the kind words. It sure means a lot, and that helps me keep going.
Well, we have a couple sayings around the ambassador room. You ready? Here they are. Number one, when your values are clear, your choices are easy. Mm-hmm. When your values are clear, your choices are easy. And number two, the essence of leadership is to plant trees under whose shade you may never sit.
Yeah.
Thank you for helping us plant some trees today.
Glad to be a part.
All right. Until our paths cross again, everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Growing Our Future podcast. Remember, if you want to know what the future is, grow it. That means you got to plant seeds. You got to take care of them. You got to water them, nurture them. You got to be consistent. And you can't sell it unless you go out and tell somebody about it. You got to be well-spoken. You got to have a network where everything Tucker said today, that's what the Growing Our Future podcast is about. Thank y'all for joining us. Go out and do something great for somebody, and we'll catch you down the road on the next episode of Growing Our Future.